Hello and welcome to another lighting diagram lesson. My name is Trenton Hoshiko, and today we're taking a look at this picture by Matilda Longevent via Pexels. If you are interested in making your own lighting diagrams with Draw.io, which is a free and open source diagramming software, I have all these filmmaking tools on my free filmmaking tools template that is available on my Patreon. You don't have to sign up, you don't have to log in or do anything, you don't have to pay any money. It is a free just putting it out there template for Draw.io, and that link is down in the video's description. While you're over there, if you do want to join, I have free and paid tiers that start at just $2. Those paid tiers do help support these lighting diagrams as well as my regular cinematography videos. I really appreciate everybody who's gone over there and supported so far. Thank you so much. It really means the world to me. So let's take a look at this image. These hands are going up into the air and they're kind of intertwining with each other, and we clearly have our main light source coming from left to right. You can tell with the strongest part of the light being on the edge of the hand there, pretty much perpendicular to the camera lens itself, it appears. That light then kind of wraps around and we get it to actually turn into a shadow by the end of it. So we kind of have this gradation from the brightest point to the darkest point, and then the wrap in the middle where it's kind of more of a dark but relatively neutral tone. That edge light aspect of it is the same for the fingers at the top here and the forearm right down here. Now, the far side is not completely blacked out or anything like that. We do have probably some fill light maybe coming from the right side. You can tell just a little bit that there is a kind of edge-ish right here, but it's very subtle, maybe just a bounce card on the other side. And so these are kind of the main parts of the shaping that we're looking for. And it's good to actually note that right here, where we wouldn't be getting any light from the left side, it's not entirely blacked out either. So let's build out a little set for this and get started here. Now, the vibe of this image to me is almost like wedding photo, and it's highlighting the ring kind of thing. I don't think it actually is because those are not the right fingers for it, but it's kind of the vibe for a stylized wedding photo type thing. So I think this is probably at some sort of location there. You can see some vague shaping in the background there. It's not entirely blacked out. So I just built a little wall room here, and we're going to take our person and add them to the scene. I would say relatively far from the wall, actually. And that first light, like we said, is pretty much just to the side, perpendicular to the hands. So we would just put the light somewhere like this. And also, before I go any further, let's grab a camera and put the camera right in line with our subject. One thing is that in spite of the actual highlight being on the flat side, that would be facing the lamp, we do have a lot of wrapping here. So I don't think that this lamp is using a Fresnel to make this exceedingly hard. These shadows would definitely be deeper. I don't think it's probably even using the hood, because once again, that would be much more of a harder source. I could see this either having, a Fresnel with a lamp and then a silk, or maybe, if you only had the hood, you could put a diffusion sock, a white diffusion sock on the end to make basically a mini softbox. But I think I would say for, this kind of setup, something that would be accessible to lots of different people would be to use a softbox. Doesn't have to be that big. This could probably be as small as like a 1x1 softbox. A 2x2 should work as well. We're trying to balance between getting this nice highlight and not having too much wrap, because we do want it to wrap all the way around to being darker, and making sure that we get the wrap at all. So I would say a regular square 1x1, maybe 2x2 softbox would be a really good option here. You could probably do this with an LED panel as well. It really just depends on what you have access to. And so this is a little tricky because our actor here is, playing a whole body actor, when we're just really looking at the hands, but you have to imagine that this lamp is going to be raised higher than a person would usually be standing. So probably about 6 feet or higher for where the hands would actually be if raised above the head, depending on the, actor's height. but we do have that little bit of a almost edge, slight fill. It just gives us a little bit more separation from the background. So I would probably take a big bounce card and put that on the other side, and just to catch a little bit of that and push it back in. I don't want it straight across because that might create a lighting sandwich. If you're not familiar with the lighting sandwich, I actually have a whole video about that. I'll link that in the video's description. And I don't want that look. I want it to just be subtle and bring a little bit of light into the back of the arms here. We do think we're going to get a little bit of bounce. Now, this could be that we're next to the wall. That would be even cheaper than having a bounce card. Bounce cards are pretty cheap, so this should work out well enough. If you want to get more wrap on the front of the hand, you can move this softbox over just a little bit and just wrap it around and just kind of open it to the side. But I wouldn't do something where we take the light and turn it actually diagonally, because then you're going to be getting too much on the front there. You want it to be wrapping because of the diffusion, not angled because of the light placement, in my opinion. Now, the front here does have this darker area, and I would say if we wanted to, we could take a WAG flag. This obviously brings up your cost and set up just a little bit more. I would take a WAG flag and put it like right about there and have that just be out of frame. And that could actually suck some of the light back out as negative fill, depending on exactly how we're managing this. Now, at the same time, depending on exactly your setup here, if you're using a softbox versus an octabox, the exact distance, the size of the material, the size of your balance, those kinds of things, if you have the WAG flag or not, you might not get enough exposure still on the front side of the arms. So what I would say is if you're struggling to get enough, you could use a lantern or a space light, and I would put it kind of on the softbox side maybe, or right in front but above. So we're going to be up here somewhere, actually, not, straight in line obviously with the camera. We want it to be above. And by putting it on the key light side, we kind of hide it just a little bit more, and that helps with that wrap just a little bit more too. And we could just put that on pretty low power. And so this is kind of the more involved setup to get a little bit more precision and control over your final image. But you could get something that looks somewhat like this by just simply having a setup similar to this. And so this is a little bit more of an involved setup with the lantern and the WAG flag. It gives you a little bit more control over your overall look, but it will take just a little bit more to set up, including gear and labor time. On this one, we're going to get something probably pretty similar to this, but we're going to have less control. We might be missing out on having that lantern in the front, so that you might have deeper shadows here. But if you only have one lamp, one softbox, and a bounce card, you can get something that's a little bit darker, maybe a little more stylized than this. Now, we do want to make sure that we can see the ring. So I think that having the position of the softbox on the side here scooted towards, if you're facing the subject from behind the lamp to the right, just to make sure that it wraps around the front, I think that helps make sure the ring catches that edge of the light just a little bit more precisely than if it was exactly down the center of the hands. We want to try to control that wrap as best as possible. Now, in a real kind of motion picture setup, this might be something that where the person has stretched up and is moving their hands and intertwining their fingers, or stretching their fingers. The image itself doesn't have a title on pixels, beyond the stock photo type title. So I kind of just called it dancing hands, because I felt like there was this like flowing motion of the hands across each other. And so if that was happening, your hands moving and the ring moving and twisting against the light that's happening at that perpendicular angle will create a little bit more interest and flow and catch the light and create shadows in various ways. And so I went into Cinetracer and made a version of this setup just to see how it would look as a recreation. And that is what you're looking at right now, them side by side. And my setup in Cinetracer looked like this. So this was a short and sweet lighting diagram. We have two different versions here. that can provide slightly different looks for slightly different budgets and get something that's reasonably like this image. If you want to see more of my lighting diagram lessons or my regular cinematography videos that are about equipment, techniques, tips and tools, all sorts of things like that, you can subscribe. I'd love to have you join the channel. I am aiming for 2,000 subscribers right now, and I am so appreciative of everybody who watches my videos. If you liked this video in particular, please do give it a like. That helps me with the YouTube algorithm and reaching new viewers who also like micro-budget cinematography videos. This week, take care of yourselves, go out of your way to help somebody around you who needs some help. These are troubling times, and just being able to be somebody who shows up for others in their time of need really makes a huge difference in our world. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful week ahead of you. Peace.